Professor Keiichi Tsunekawa, thank you very much for taking time for us.
Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, why has the Argentine economy worsened so sharply in this short period?
Well, the immediate cause of the crisis was Argentine failure to repay foreign debt because of the decline of its foreign reserve to a dangerously low level. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, refused to extend further assistance to Argentina because the Argentina failed to keep up with its promise of balancing the budget. And without IMF assistance, Argentina just could not continue repaying the debts. But actually, the Argentine government has realized spending cuts several times last year as the economy got deeply into recession and the government revenues dropped sharply. But the companies and people lost confidence in the future of the economy and started to withdraw their bank deposits and convert this money into U.S. dollars and take it out of the country. To avoid the drying up of foreign reserve, the government placed a limitation, I think it was $1,000 per month, on the amount of permissible deposit withdrawal. And this policy triggered violent reactions from the population, who had already suffered badly from a long recession and government spending cuts. Then the president of the country changed several times in a few weeks, but unfortunately the crisis is deepening as the Supreme Court declared the withdrawal limitations unconstitutional last week. And the fixed exchange rate system called convertibility plan is usually believed to be responsible for this crisis. It is said that since the exchange rate is fixed and the peso is convertible into dollar without limits, the Argentine currency became overvalued vis-a-vis other currencies in the world, and this caused a deterioration of trade balance. And the problem of trade imbalance became especially serious when Brazil decided to devalue its currency to cope with the contagion from the Asian crisis. So Brazil devalued, but Argentina did not follow suit. As a result, the competitiveness of Argentine products declined. Since Brazil is the largest trade partner for Argentina, the impact was especially serious. And besides the impact upon trade, the convertibility plan affected the behavior of money borrowers too. Since, as I said, the dollar was relatively cheap, banks, companies, and individuals in Argentina borrowed heavily in dollars. And this worsened the already serious problem of accumulated debt of the country. The debt service ratio reached 75% in 1999. This means that Argentina had to use 75% of its export earnings just to pay interest. And the economy just could not continue in this way. So some people believe that there was a policy failure on the part of the Argentine government. They say that it should have abandoned the convertibility plan and devalued the peso much earlier. But I would say that it was impossible, just impossible for the government to abandon the convertibility plan unless Argentina faced an extremely serious economic and political crisis, such as the one Argentina did experience last December. And the reason why Argentina could not abandon the convertibility plan easily resides in the way the plan had been introduced in the first place. The plan was adopted in 1991, so 11 years ago, to cope with the hyperinflation, which reached a 4-digit level in 1989 and 1990, 2 consecutive years. People rioted and looted supermarkets at that time too. And the president of the country was forced to resign 7 months earlier than the end of his term. This incident remained as a deep trauma for many Argentine people. So when the convertibility plan succeeded to reduce the inflation rate to a 1-digit level in just 2 years, The overwhelming majority of the people welcomed the new exchange system as a permanent one, though the plan was accompanied by a high rate of unemployment. Another thing is that since people expected that the compatibility plan is maintained for a long term, they started to borrow heavily in dollar. And once dollar-denominated debts increased, devaluation became anathema for the borrowers, because devaluation would mean the increase of debt burden for them. Those are why I believe that the Argentine government did not have an alternative other than maintaining the compatibility plan until the situation became incurably deteriorated. People finally accepted the abandonment of compatibility plan only when the economic political situation became as bad as it had been in 1989.
Right. I understand the cause of the economic crisis was not only the failure of the currency policy, that the peso was pegged to the dollar at a rate of 1-to-1. It was rather a problem of society and economic structure. That was a problem.
Yes, to understand the current crisis, we need to consider the reason why Argentina came to experience the 4-digit inflation in the first place. And to understand this, we have to look into its history. Argentina was actually one of the richest countries in the early 20th century. Its wealth was based on the export of agricultural and livestock products. But Argentina failed to transform the economy from the agriculture-based to the industry-based one. It did industrialize, but to industrialize successively, you need continuous restructuring of the industries, and this restructuring needs coordination of interests among the market players, because sacrifices necessary for the restructuring have to be shared among them. The problem of Argentina is that the government just failed to arrange a sustainable mechanism to coordinate fair distribution of sacrifices among workers, employers, landowners, and the urban middle-class people. Moreover, the domestic industries could not develop efficient productive capacity under the excessive protection offered by the government. So naturally, the pace of industrialization slowed down soon, and social conflicts among market players became serious. And in Argentina, the government, in this process, the government changed from the military to civilians, and from civilian to military several times. And in the early 1980s, when the Argentina came to face the accumulated debt problem, government just changed from the military to the civilian one. But this civilian government could not persuade people about the necessity to share sacrifices to overcome this debt problem. Everybody wanted to defend his or her own interests without thinking about the interest of the nation as a whole. Without a national consensus, the government hesitated to implement unpopular policy of spending cuts, administrative reforms, and trade and investment liberalization. As a result, the inflation rate became higher every year, reaching a 4-digit figure in 1989. Now, after Argentina experienced a traumatic hyperinflation in 89 and 90, the government, finally introduced not only the compatibility plan, but also a series of liberalization and deregulation measures. Almost all state-run corporations were privatized. Restructuring of government offices and private companies was realized. Trade and investment were liberalized. In a few years, Argentina became one of the most market economy-oriented countries in the world. And the growth rate reached an astonishing 9% annually between 1991 and 94. So both the government and people believed the Argentina now had an economy that could continue a sustainable growth in the future. But unfortunately, it was not the case. Under the market economy, the manufacturing industries declined, social inequality expanded, and the unemployment rate surpassed 15%. No attempt was made to establish a mechanism to share sacrifices and benefits among the population. Everything now depended on market forces. So when it became clear that the economy entered in a long recession and the convertibility plan was no more sustainable, the Argentines found out that they did not have any sacrifice sharing consensus among themselves. This made the readjustment extremely difficult, and as a result, the crisis broke out and has persisted since then.
And then what will happen to Argentina?
Well, one thing clear is that crisis is just deepening. As long as debt moratorium persists, no lender will bring new money into Argentina. Debt area will be accumulated and make debt negotiation more difficult in the future. So sooner or later, the Argentine government needs to reach an agreement with the International Monetary Fund to get its financial assistance as well as its support for the rescheduling negotiation with the creditors. But IMF, of course, is demanding many things, especially two things to the Argentine government. One is the integration of the foreign exchange systems into one, and the other demand is the fiscal balance. But the problem is both measures need large sacrifices from the population. The integration of the foreign exchange system means a huge devaluation, maybe more than 100%, and the fiscal balance will lead to another spending cut. The government needs to persuade its people about the necessity of those sacrifices. But people are now furious about the government policy of limiting deposit withdrawal. Few people believe in the government. And probably the only solution for Argentina, I believe, is to convene a kind of national convention to which representatives of all social sectors are invited, and they should discuss among themselves to reach an agreement about fair distribution of sacrifices to get out of this impasse.
And what kind of impact can we expect to neighboring countries as a result of Argentine economic crisis and devaluation of the peso?
The most serious impact will be felt by Argentine partners of Mercosur. Mercosur is Southern Common Market. They are Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. But the contagion into the financial market of those countries is to be limited because the fear of Argentine debt default had been lingering since early last year. So the investors had enough time to prepare for the D-Day. The panicky reaction from the international investors, which was seen on the occasion of the Asian crisis, is not observed this time. What might be more serious for Mercosur partners is the effect on trade and immigrant labor. Because of the devaluation of the Argentine peso and the recession in Argentine economy, the exports to Argentina from the Mercosur partners can be affected badly. In addition, Paraguayan workers in Argentina will suffer. Paraguay sends a large number of immigrant workers to Argentina every year. They work in the low-wage sectors. The recession in Argentina can naturally affect those people since less jobs are available now.
How about the impact on the global economy, including Japan and the United States?
Well, as I said, I expect the impact of the crisis on the world economy as a whole is minimal. As I said, the coming of the crisis had been expected since almost 1 year ago, so most investors were ready when the crisis finally hit. Of course, the individuals and companies who failed to get rid of the Argentine national bonds and securities in time now face big losses, of course. But those unfortunate people are not unmanageably numerous. But the limited sense of crisis in the world, which is seen now, is not good for Argentina itself, since the impact is limited. Few people feel pressed to do something soon for Argentina.
And here in Japan, we are also facing economic difficulties. Of course, Japan has different kind of problems, but is there anything Japan can learn from Argentina's economic crisis?
Well, of course, the situation in Japan is different from the one in Argentina. Japan does not have the convertibility plan. We have a floating system. Nor is Japan a debtor country yet. Nobody knows what happened in the future, but we are a creditor country. But I believe that we can learn two things from the Argentine experience. One is any serious economic reform needs a consensus among market players about fair distribution of sacrifices. Without having such consensus, it is difficult for the government to accomplish necessary reforms. Without consensus, mounting social pressures will deter the continuation of the reforms and make economic conditions worse than ever. And second, the Argentine experience demonstrated that the market-oriented reforms alone cannot bring about sustainable growth. They must be supplemented by measures that contribute to improving competitiveness of national industries. In addition, the losers in the market need to be taken care of so that the sense of social connectedness is maintained. Without this sense of social connectedness, it will be difficult to have a broad agreement about fair distribution of sacrifices in the time of economic downturn. As I said before, without such social consensus, we cannot implement necessary reforms successfully.
Professor Tsunekawa, thank you very much.